guys, welcome back to my channel. A lot of YouTubers are kind of going through the books they've read this year. So this is me dipping my toe into the booktuber community. Even PewDiePie made a video on the books he's read this year. I will link my Goodreads below. Make sure you add me as a friend. Stay tuned to the end of this video because I'm going to be giving away 2 of my favorite books from my reading list this year. So I opened up 2018 by reading Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I listened to it on Audible. The author herself reads it, and it's a really moving book that kind of pushes you toward what really makes your creativity shine. That can kind of help you come to terms with what creativity is, what it means for you specifically, and how you can best implement it. I definitely recommend reading this book if you're trying to be more creative. Not even just like an artistic way, but just creative in your outlook on life. The next book I read was The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. It's about basically just tidying, how she uses like almost spiritual thought patterns when it comes to cleaning up. I mean, if you look around my room, you can tell I didn't really implement it that much because I am more like, referencing Big Magic, I am that creative type where having things around me inspires me to create. So that kind of tidying up style didn't really work for me and the way I live. However, it's an interesting read because there are some tidbits that I definitely took away from it. So the next book I read was Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. This was the first book on the 2018 list for my book club that I'm a part of locally called the Bucks Book Club. Now you can follow Bucks Book Club on Instagram. I will link it below because you don't have to be a local member in order to participate. So the book itself was fabulous. It was a really great narrative, written very well, and very misleading, but in a good way. Definitely an art to misleading your audience and kind of taking them on a separate ride from the original story. Next book I read is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour, which was another Bucks Book Club read. And this book I wasn't entirely into. The story itself was, it was pretty good. It's about love and loss, how that reflects in a teen's life, in a young adult. However, I didn't see a lot of reasoning behind motivation, but it wasn't really what I was looking for in a novel. The next book is again a Bucks Book Club pick called Laura and Emma by Kate Greathead. The book itself was interesting. It was written well, however, I was not into it. So the only way I can really describe what kind of bothered me about this book is the fact that the main character is very unrelatable, and a lot of the things she goes through can be boiled down to, quote, rich people problems. Although I did get to meet the author and she was able to kind of put a lot of the issues in perspective. Okay, so this next book I'm excited about. The Child Finder by Renee Denfield was, yes, another book club pick, but I loved this book. This book kind of tracks this private investigator as she goes through trying to find a missing child. This book kind of goes into the mind of someone who was lost and someone who is lost, and what kind of trauma that brings and what kind of effects that trauma has on someone. On that note, the next book, again, highly recommend this one. It's The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Stole my sister's fire tablet to read this, and I'm so glad I did. Book, it has the same gist and many of the same characters as the show, but it's so much more fleshed out. Some story elements are completely different, so it's such a fresh read even if you have seen the show. So the next book I read was just something that I've had on my list for forever. It's Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. There was a lot of time jumps throughout this book, so it was a little hard to keep track. I did listen to this book. It was read by James Franco. However, it was very hard to keep track of what was going on in this book. And I know it's a very, very popular book to read. I wasn't as intrigued by it as I thought I would be. I think I had higher expectations, and it kind of let me down in what I actually got. It's interesting. I definitely am glad I read it. It's just not something that I would read again, but I do recommend. It's something to check out. It's definitely a cultural touchstone for a lot of people. Okay, the next book I read was Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari. Not much to say about this, except the fact that it's less of a memoir or kind of how-to guide and more of a, hey, we did statistical research and here are our results and here's some jokes littered in. Next 2 books that I read were graphic novels. The first is My Friend Dahmer by Derf Back Derf. There is a movie based on this graphic novel and it stars, I don't know the guy's actual name, but he was in Austin and Ally, that Disney show. The graphic novel was superb. So seeing the way he grew up and the things that he went through gave an interesting perspective on the case study of the human being of Jeffrey Dahmer. If you know anything else by him that I should read, definitely comment below. Speaking of comic books, the next book I read was Batman Year One, written by Frank Miller and illustrated by Dave Mazzucchelli. I love Batman. I grew up reading Batman comics. It did not let down. I wish it was longer. I wanted to start getting into comic books. It's very hard to know where to start. Recently, I was looking into the Marvel universe, and my god, there's 1,000 million characters. 2, if you read through the backlog, you're reading through 60 plus years. So if you are a comic book nerd and kind of have a recommendation of where to start, comment below. I definitely need your help on this one. The next book I read was You're Never Weird on the Internet, Almost, by Felicia Day. It's a memoir of her life and how she wound up where she is today. So I recommend it if you're into memoirs, and if you have a chance to listen to the audiobook of this one, which I did, you can hear it read by Felicia Day herself, and she is a great narrator. So the next 2 books I read were both by Riley Sager. The Last Time I Lied was a Bucks Book Club pick. Final Girls was just something I had to pick up after reading the first one because it was just that good. The Last Time I Lied kind of goes through the story of a woman who lost a couple of her friends when she was at summer camp many years prior, and is kind of reliving that trauma when she's asked to come back. It's kind of a thriller, definitely a huge mystery. Couldn't put it down when I picked it up. And the same thing for Final Girls, which is about a woman who survived a mass murder and how she connects to other survivors of mass murder, and basically a big whodunit. The only issue I have with these books, it seemed as though the reveal at the end really could have been anyone. Really see a lot of build-up for certain characters, which I think is an issue that a lot of mystery writers can fall into, but I do recommend these books. They are very good. For the next book, I was a little late to the game. The Maze Runner by James Dashner. I really loved it. I love the exploration of the characters, the exploration of the landscape. I don't know if City of Bones is the same thing, but I have Divergent, which I haven't read. I like that young adult dystopian novels. This one especially was very well written and very intriguing. And if you've seen the movie, do you think it's better, worse? Let me know. The next one is another YouTuber memoir. Well, that escalated quickly. Memoirs and Mistakes of an Accidental Activist by Franchesca Ramsey. Huge fan of Franchesca Ramsey and all that she does. So this book was another very interesting insight. Creative success, in my opinion, is finding worth and finding fulfillment in your creative pursuits. So I love stories like that, and if you're interested in Franchesca Ramsey in any way, even issues of, race and gender and all of that, it's a good read. You can definitely learn a thing or two. So the next book I read was Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertal. It was so cute, and the entire last 6 chapters, I had butterflies in my stomach. I love hearing, the thoughts in Simon's head throughout the book. I think Leah on the Offbeat is the sequel to this book. If you've read it, let me know if you liked it. The next book I read is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doherty. Another YouTuber book, but very different because Caitlin is a mortician. It's fascinating the way people relate to death and the way people let go. So having her narrate her life, working in a crematory and, dealing with mourners, kind of turning the funeral industry on its head, and kind of made me think about what I want to do in the event of my death. It's not easy, it's heavy, but also funny, and it's a great book. Highly recommend. Next one on this list is I Am Watching You by Therese Driscoll. It was one of those mystery whodunit ones. Unfortunately, I felt that this one fell into the same problem that the Riley Sager books fell into. However, I did enjoy the book. It also forced me to think about how we perceive victims of crimes. As someone who hasn't consumed a lot of mystery books, wonder if that's just an issue with mystery in general. If you're a fan of mystery, let me know if you have any recommendations for books that don't fall into this issue. So the last book that I read this year was One Day in December by Josie Silver. This was the last Bucks Book Club pick for the year. It's a Christmassy love story. It had a lot of promise. However, I read the whole thing, and I read it fairly quickly. It was interesting. I just couldn't relate to these characters at all. It was a good book. It was well written. Maybe it was the cheese factor. I don't know. I just had a really hard time enjoying the story for more than what it was. If it wasn't the middle of December and it wasn't about Christmas, I would say it's a good beach read. So, you know, if you're into that, go right ahead and enjoy. But the last thing I read this year, which I didn't technically read, was Christmas Eve 1914 by Charles Olivier. It's one of the Audible original titles that you can download through Audible. I don't know if it can be read as a physical book anywhere or if it's just an exclusive audio drama title through Audible, but if you have a chance to listen to it, I would really recommend it. It talks about a specific instance during the First World War of soldiers on Christmas Eve and what that was like and kind of how they related to the other side. It was very human and it was very moving. It was heart-wrenching. I really felt for the characters. And it's a short listen. It was only about an hour and a half at most. I enjoyed it. It was definitely on the whole other side of the coin. It was definitely on the whole other side of the coin. Why do I keep saying other side of the coin? It was on a complete opposite side of a coin from One Day in December, which was kind of fluff, but I really enjoyed it. So that is all the books I read in 2018. On Goodreads, at the beginning of the year, I pledged to read 15 books. And your girl read 21. I don't know how many I should pledge for next year, if I should be a little more ambitious or kind of, you know, surprise myself again. Now to the thing you've all been waiting for, the giveaway. Okay, so we're at the end of the video, the part you've all been waiting for, but before I reveal the books I'm giving away, I want to know what what's a good hashtag? New Year's readolutions are. What are books you really want to read? Or if you don't read, do you want to read more? Or do you want to read less? I don't know if you're like anti-book. My New Year's resolutions include cutting down on the books that I have. I don't know if I could part with them, but this is just like a taste of what's here. There's an entire bookshelf over here. There's books over on my dresser over there. There's books over there in the corner. I have a lot of books that I have not read. So my New Year's resolution is to read through some of the books that I already have and read the second part of a lot of the series that I started recently, like the second Maze Runner book. Also, I have some Game of Thrones over here. I read the first one, loved it, so I think this year I want to start with book 2. Give me that hashtag New Year's Readolutions 2018 and at me on Twitter at ShabaJam. Send me a post over on Instagram, again at ShabaJam. Leave a comment below. Why am I staring at the microphone this whole time? Leave a comment below with your New Year's Readolutions 2018. The moment you've all been waiting for, the giveaway. 2 of my very favorite books this year that I read were The Child Finder and The Handmaid's Tale. These are brand new. I don't even buy myself brand new books. All of these are secondhand. But, you know, the things I do for you guys. So, these 2 books I'm going to be sending to one lucky winner. In order to enter, you need to be subscribed to this channel, first of all. Comment below. I'm going to say it again. New Year's Readolution 2019. Wow. New Year's Readolutions 2018. If you can remember the hashtag and you can comment that below, I mean, you might deserve my entire book collection, because I obviously can't say it. In order to win these 2 books, again, subscribe, comment below with your New Year's Readolutions 2018. That was a bad hashtag. I was really proud of myself earlier today when I thought about that. Comment and subscribe. That's all I'm asking for you. You have until the 6th to enter, and then if you win, you have until the 11th to message me. I will announce it in Monday's video. If you're interested in winning, do your thing, baby. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a like, comment below with all your recommendations, anything you have to say. I'd love to hear it. Share this video with your friends. Let's give some more people a chance to win. Subscribe, and I know I'm gonna regret saying this as soon as it comes out of my mouth. I post new videos every Monday-ish. Asterisks on that one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your support. I hope you have a wonderful New Year's. Be safe, be happy, be healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Back from the dead.